Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I'm David and this is the very striking and very radical looking 3T Strada Italia. And tomorrow I'm flying to Italy to ride Strade Bianche on this bike. What an experience, what a day. That is the Italian national champion getting a big cheer. But before then, let me give you a tour of the bike and point out some cool details. So cast your mind back to 2017, not that long ago, but in the bike world, an absolute aeon. And the original Strada launched to much fanfare and much shock as well, with an aero frame design around 28mm wide tyres, which were wide back then, and one bike only. But when I reviewed the bike at Road CC, it's a bike that blew me away. And the only real limitation were the 1x11 gears, but now we have 1x12 and 1x13. But after the backlash, shall we say, of 1x, the company duly launched the Duo, a 2x version. Fast forward to 2025, we had the latest version, available 1x or 2x, and with a frame now made in Italy, because 3T have heavily invested in carbon fibre manufacturing at the HQ in Italy. So the new bike still has a lot in common with the original, but some clear departures. The main one is up front. We now have full internal routing with their own handlebar and stem, and a very deep head tube nose cone area, which looks radical, but we are seeing a big trend in the aero bike category of very deep head tubes, and this sort of nose cone, which we saw on the Specialized Tarmac, the speed sniffer. And then moving further back, the down tube is really narrow just here, and then flares out wildly around the water bottle, down to a bottom bracket where it goes in narrow again, and then a really narrow seat tube which hugs the rear wheel like a time trial bike into the rear stays, which are very skinny, and a very upright aero seat tube and seat post, and a very skinny top tube as well. Some other details to point out: UDH dropout, so you can run SRAM Explore. Press fit bottom bracket, space now. The old bike had 28 space. This new one goes up to 35, 36. These are 30s, but probably a bit wider on these Zip 353 wheels. So yeah, lots in common with that old bike, but they clearly moved it on, and it still looks as radical today as it did back in 2017. And I love the raw carbon fibre weave on show. On a sunny day like today, it really looks absolutely amazing, and I'm a big fan of having the carbon fibre work on display, not hiding it under heavy paint.
Okay. So that's the frame out of the mould.
This is the frame out of the mold, exactly. And yeah, this is just out of the mold. You know, we have resin is already in, it cures, it hardens, so now we have a proper composite part. You see all the fibers pattern, all the different patches, and now it's one piece, it's one together. And then this later, it goes into the finishing process in which it gets deburred, it gets drilled, and it gets prepared for finishing, and it gets prepared for painting.
But you can see how nice the carbon weave
looks. You're ready.
Yeah, on the top tube.
Yeah.
And around the seat tube.
Yeah.
And it's very smooth as well.
Yeah.
But now it's time to skip ahead to Siena, where you join me on a white road of Tuscany to ride my favourite event on this bike and see how it performs and handles.
So here we are, Starline Strade Bianche Gran Fondo, 137 kilometres ahead of us, and about 30 kilometres or something of white roads. Should be fun. I'm in the Group 1, the first pen, right at the start of the Gran Fondo of 6,000 people, mostly behind me, so it should be a good day. I think it'll be a very quick start, isn't it?
Hopefully not too messy, man. Questions.
Absolutely flat out, balls to the wall, blimey.
1 hour in, nearly 40 kilometers down. That's how quick it's been. Absolutely flat out. But the first section of white road, amazing. Clouds of dust, bikes delivering around. Yeah. Go on, keep going.
Strade Italia, vengono qui.
And that is an amazing day on the bike. Absolutely exhausted, but so happy. Definitely one of the best events you can do in the world. Such a great atmosphere. Amazing white roads, proper technical riding, fast. But yeah, this finish here in the square. Look at that.
So that was Strada Bianche, and I have a very nice medal to show for my efforts and some very tired legs too. A fantastic day out, a great experience. I highly recommend it. For me, it's one of my favourite events in the world. Top 3 up there with Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix. And one very important thing to know about Gran Fondos in Europe, for us in the UK, where sporties are popular, they're not races. You get a medal like this and you get a time, but not actually races. But in Europe, they are races and there are podium positions and prizes. The start of the race was absolutely full gas, riding like the clappers, just eyeballs out. We covered the first 40 kilometers in about 1 hour, which is just crazy for me. So super fast, like a road race, and super sketchy as well. So it took me just over 4 hours, 4 hours and 18 minutes, and I'm very pleased with my time with 2,000 meters of climbing. So yeah, very happy. And the bike, I've ridden the bike once back home in the UK to get familiar with it, but being thrown into a big event, a long distance event on unfamiliar roads on a new bike is arguably not a good idea, but a good test for a bike. And the bike did perform really well. Firstly, no mechanicals, no punches, I didn't crash, had no issues with the bike at all in that regard. So very happy indeed. And there's a lot to like about the bike. I was actually really impressed with the bike and how it rode and how it handled and the speed and the handling. And I was surrounded by people on tarmacs, Super 6 Evos, lots of Trek Madones, in fact, lots of very fast, familiar bikes and bikes I've ridden over the last few years. There's no denying it's a quick bike and helped me to maintain the high speed required in that. Sorry about the chickens go mad behind me right now. And the bike definitely helped me maintain high speeds in that early section of the race with minimal effort. And I'd never use the 10T sprocket as much as I did today. I was in that all the time for the first hour and a half, and I haven't spun out a gear on a bike in a long time either, so it's super quick, probably flying along the roads. And then the second thing that really impressed me about the bike, because many aero bikes are getting smoother in terms of comfort and compliance, but still quite hard riding, and the tarmac is an example of a really good bike that balances aerodynamics and speed, but also good comfort as well. And this bike was mightily smooth, really blown away with the comfort. 30mm tyres from Vittoria at my 50-55 psi pressure. Back home on my UK test route, the bike also impressed with comfort and definitely smoother than many other bikes in this aero bike category. So how they've managed to achieve such a level of compliance from the frame, and it's well balanced too. Good comfort from the back and also through the handlebars and through the head tube as well. So not a jarring bike at one end, very well balanced, good comfort through both axles. So very impressed on that. I finished the ride. I go in like the clappers, but I don't feel, apart from no obvious tiredness, I don't feel too beaten up. My shoulders, my arms, my back all feel pretty good. And yet, despite that good level of comfort and compliance, it's still a stiff frame. And the bike definitely has a good snap through the bottom bracket and chain stays. No real sense of the frame flexing and robbing you of power. There's perhaps a slight lack of stiffness up front through the fork on some of the sweeping tarmac bends where it does corner really well. It felt really good through the corners actually. Nice and easy to play through the apex and quite easy to just hold your line. Similar to my Carnago in that sort of relaxed nature, not too pointy, but definitely when you're really pushing hard into the corners, maybe the front end isn't quite as stiff as other race bikes and as stiff as it could be, but really splitting your hairs here. I didn't have any issue getting down the descent faster than most other people around me, which is I was quite impressed with as well. The bike weighs 7.5 kilos, which definitely helped me on the climbs. I definitely suffered on the climbs of my real weakness. My power to weight ratio isn't so good right now. Having a lightweight bike and a bike that does climb well out of the saddle, reasonably stiff through the bottom brackets and a nice low range of gears, but I would have preferred a bigger cassette on the back, a 1036. This, I believe, is a 1033, so I could have done with a bit more kind of low end range. And then the fit, size 56, it fits me really well. It feels very familiar to a Canyon Air Road or something else in terms of my reach from the saddle to the drops and the hoods, so it doesn't feel too long or too stretched. The front end is quite high, quite a tall head tube, but I have no spacers, well maybe one spacer, and it meant I can use the drops more of the time as well. So the bike's set up to allow me to use the drops, and then in the tops it's not too slammed. And I think that suits most amateurs like myself who don't actually need a super low front end. We are now seeing pros running their race bikes with spacers, so a trend away from slammed to actually higher for more comfort for us amateurs and possibly more aero for the pros as everything getting higher and narrower. So an interesting experience, definitely a radical, perhaps quirky looking bike. I know it's polarizing from the comments on Instagram over the last few days, but I like the fact that it does look different. And if you are into aero, it is an aero bike with that deep head tube, which we are seeing on bikes like the one from Ridley, the Tarmac as well, and Cervelo do the curved seat tube, so it has all the aero features you want, and it does test well in aero testing. It's just whether you can accept a bike that looks distinctive, shall we say, if we're being polite. I mean, I actually like the way it looks. It's grown on me. Seeing the bike with your own eyes in the flesh definitely helps, and spending time on the bike definitely helps as well. And it's definitely a head turner compared to something a bit more vanilla, like a Tarmac or a Canyon Air Road, which all look fairly generic and all look very similar these days. So that is possibly working against it, but could work for it, depending on your point of view. But if you ignore the way it looks, it does deliver good performance in my testing experience so far, and doesn't really hold you back compared to riding a Tarmac or a Super 6 Evo or a Canyon Air Road. I don't think at all, really. So yeah, first experience, very good, very positive. Yeah, I like what 3T had done. I've always liked 3T. The original Strada was a bike that really impressed me, despite most people moaning about it when it came out. I like the fact this has a lot in common, but they clearly moved on a lot in terms of tire clearance, aerodynamics, and being made in Italy as well. So yeah, like I say, very much a first ride, impressions, give you a flavour of what the bike's all about. And yeah, but for me, the star of the show is the event. Strada Bianche, my goodness me, what an event, what a place. Beautiful, bring the family, bring your partner, have a weekend here in Tuscany and ride your bike, do the event, get a medal, and yeah, you'll thank me later. Right, that's all for now. I'm off home, back to the UK, so normal business will resume very soon. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, my first ride on the 3T Strada Italia, my experience riding the Strade Bianche Gran Fondo. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you again very soon.